All right, it's now just gone after 7 o'clock. It's time for us on KTN News and right here on Morning Express to look at the state of the nation. Joining me to have that conversation, we have Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. We already had him as we were reviewing the papers, but to reintroduce him, we are also now joined by Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who is the Deputy Party Leader for ANC. Thank you for joining us this morning. And remember, you are also part of this conversation and you're welcome to join, and you can do that via social media as you weigh in on some of the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. A quick reminder of the question that we're running this morning so that we'll also participate and have that as we go along. And the question that we were asking is, do you think that Kenya's members of parliament are too expensive for the taxpayer? Do you think that Kenya's members of parliament are too expensive for the taxpayer? So far, with more than 100 votes, we already have 98% of you saying yes, they're too expensive. We have 2%, no, 4%, sorry, saying that no. If I would just read one or two of your comments. Let me see. Soy Agri says, yes, our members of parliament's lifestyle and formula of life just taking Kenyans back to enslavement. It is we citizens struggling to earn a living and our taxes shall be feeding them. We also have His Excellency Mandela Nelson. Okay. I see the roles of MPs and MCAs as one to represent people in the assembly, county and national. This could be merged and tasks added to members of parliament and do away with this MCA thing, or else members of parliament to be ministers and do away with the Senate. Then we shall be economical. So keep your comments coming. I'm going to be reading them as we go along. But before we get to the debate of the perks that the members of parliament want, let us first of all focus on members of the National Assembly for the second day continue to debate on the gender rule bill that seeks to ensure that not more than 2/3 of members on the appointive and elective public bodies shall be of the same gender. The bill was moved on Tuesday by Majority Leader Aden Duale, who urged his colleagues to avoid, or rather to pass and void the prospects of a petition to have Parliament dissolved if it fails. Despite that, debate on the floor of the House has attracted support and opposition in equal measure. The fate of the bill will be known next week when members of Parliament will be called upon to vote.
When we use Parliament as a springboard, I believe girls that may not have never discovered their power or their momentum will come through this Parliament and will achieve things that they may never have achieved.
Some have been saying that there's a danger that nominated members who are expected to be mostly women won't be properly nominated or chosen by their parties. But I want to say that if political parties don't choose or don't nominate properly, then there's also there's an equal danger for those parties that do that to also choose the constituency leaders in a way that is not fair.
It's unfortunate that a lot of propaganda is going on out there, indicating that, you know, what is being proposed is going to be burden to taxpayers.
We tried it in last Parliament, it failed. Despite the fact that our political leaders were there, and I remember our political leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, was sitting up there. Still it failed. It has failed several times. This time round, let us make sure it doesn't.
Many women have been left behind in development processes, in participation in decision making for a long time, and it is time that we passed this bill.
From my constituency, we need more men, and I want to demonstrate how. This bill is not about women, but it's about gender. Both men and women. I come from Murang'a County, which is divided into Murang'a South and Murang'a North. Kegumo is represented by Honorable Ruth Mwaniki. Kandara is represented by Honorable Alice Wahome.
Honorable Ndwati, sorry to disrupt you. You will have opportunity to refresh your thoughts. Honorable Ndwati, just hold your horses. You will have 4 minutes when this matter is again set down for consideration in the order paper. You will be the first one to have a go at it.
All right, so that's a debate that continues, and like we mentioned earlier, we shall find out tomorrow when time for voting comes. But this is not the first time that it has been debated on the floor, and despite the president himself, the deputy president, and even the leader of the opposition or the leader of ODM, Raila Odinga, basically putting his weight and saying this must go through. It has not gone through. So let me start with you, Kipruto Arap Kirwa. You have been a member of parliament. You've sat in the House. And what are the dynamics? What is it that would make something that has already been enshrined in the Constitution that many see as long overdue? And even if we look at our neighboring countries, Rwanda, for example, already they have, I think, over 50% of the legislators being women. What is it that Kenyans are waiting for?
Well, at times there is a lot of prejudice, and I think the main challenge, and even that's what I would have said if I was in Parliament, is that if we have to have many of our sisters in these particular positions, they should not just be nominated. They should go through a nomination process at the party level, so that each party can present a certain set of candidates, and those candidates now will compete for those positions the way they compete for the nomination for MCA, senator, and various other positions. In this case, we'll be having a quota. For example, let's say Muranga. We'll have used the population of Muranga. We say Muranga, so many MPs now, they need members of parliament from the other gender, and possibly 3 of them. So the top 3 in each party shall be in the party list, so that people don't use this opportunity to bring people that Kenyans will be wondering, where has she come from? That's the position I hold.
There's that concern that if this happens, then the nominations may be very biased and not necessarily based on merit, but it just could be association or networks.
Yeah, that's what is worrying me, because, and it should not be like women are voting for women. We are voting for people that we feel they are going to address the issue of gender. Because one time, there may be more women elected as members of parliament, and men shall need to be there to take care of the constitutional position.
Gender. Yes. All right, Ambrose Weda, your thoughts on why this, first of all, has faltered? I know there's been the argument that Kenya is very patriarchal, and as a result, somehow women have not been viewed as leaders, and maybe that's why maybe there's a threat to men in parliament.
No, I think that's the propaganda that is being spread around, patriarchal. So we are talking about impact, and women who have been impactful have defeated men. We go by impact. Now we have quite a number of them in parliament. 47 women rep, just fashion. There?
23 elected.
23 elected. Just fashion. And looking good and looking nice, hardly making serious impact. The ones who make impact, like Ngelu, like Martha Karua, you see them. And men fear them. When you hear it is Ngelu, you go under the table. And he tells you, don't treat me as a woman, I am coming. Secondly, women are very many. If they chose to take power in this country, it would be game changer.
So are you for the idea that maybe it doesn't even need to be passed, the 2/3 gender rule?
The 2/3 gender rule, either we do away with the constitutional requirement, or we divide and say, look, we have, the constituencies will divide a third. Every 5 years, listed constituencies will be required to elect women. Then after 5 years, it moves to the next constituencies, the next
batch. But that then would be forcing, where does that put democracy? Because then if you force people to elect this particular person simply because of gender, then what does that say about democracy? And number 2, merit.
It is a better evil than the top-up one. The top-up one is worse. We have seen it work.
What's wrong with the top-up one?
The top-up ones, first of all, they're strangers that you bring in. At least somebody brought in through some election has more legitimacy than my girlfriend who has been pushed, or my Luo relative, or what. Look at the ones who were nominated the last time. Any criteria? No. You are promised, don't contest against Honkirwa, we will nominate you. Or you are my relative or my girlfriend, and you can see them. And when they go to parliament, they are like deaf and dumb. They are nowhere. So top-up is worse because not only of the criteria, but even ability. Somebody elected, at least he has gone through some elections, he understands. And then thirdly, is the question of bloated expenses. Our priorities now is not, we are not short of representation. We are not short of women or men our issues revolve around education, around healthcare. We deal with it, then a time will come when we can top as many of our girlfriends as possible. For now, as we consider either reserving slots, elective slots for a given gender, now ladies, or alternatively, we just do away with the requirement that we have 2/3 for, let's say, another 10, 15 years. Then after that time we come. For now, we are too broke and too hungry, and our MPs are also too hungry.
But Kira, do you agree that maybe this would not be the right time? Although women, I'm sure, and not just women, because this is a conversation not about women, but about inclusivity. And the question would be, there's never a right time, there's never a time that we're going to be rich enough to have that, but we need that representation. The women need to have an equal playing field.
Well, for me, I'm not worried about the budget, because basically, even the number of members of parliament that we have today are not so expensive. What makes it expensive is the offices that are bloated by the governors and their so-called ministers. So my worry would actually be, what is the process of getting these ladies that get to parliament? And possibly to improve on what Lawyer Weda said, I would prefer that we collapse constituencies into county. Like Nairobi, we have 17 constituencies in Nairobi. So what we do is we do proportional representation, the way South Africa has done. But in this case, we say the first one is a woman, 2, 3, man, number 4, a woman, all the way up to 17. Once we get the 17 on a slate, let's say of Jubilee, and 17 on the slate of NASA, we now go for the party to choose the number that they will get proportional to the votes that they get at the end of the general election. In that case, we'll have captured our sisters, and we have reduced our constituencies to only 290. That's the way we are making a saving. At the same time, we have a number of people. Now, women will earn those positions because the party will be now the boss to choose from the slate of votes that they have gotten. In that way, we are allowing also women to be subjected to some kind of exercise without just being picked. Why am I saying that? They will have gone for party nomination to qualify to be number 1 woman in the list of, let's say, Jubilee, or number 1 woman to be in the list of NASA. You will have gone for an election, and you have gotten the highest number of votes. At the end of the day, now you are given a chance to be number 1 on the list.
But would parties be able to do that, given even the nominations we've seen for most parties are also based on, who you know and how connected you are, and sometimes even how much money you have? Whether do you think parties are able to even conduct that exercise with fairness? I mean, what difference will that make between parties nominating and not having girlfriends or people who maybe are just well connected, and even at a national level?
I think when we are serious, because it's a constitutional requirement and then a constitutional fulfillment, IBC would come in to conduct the nominations. Money would be allocated to IBC to conduct these nominations so that my girlfriend can be defeated by your girlfriend, then we take your girlfriend. Do you understand? But for now, I'm the party leader, and I'm the Secretary General and the supreme organ. When I point a finger at somebody, that's how it goes. And then that is why when they're in parliament, there's no impact. For now, there's no impact. Ladies, I'm telling you, there's no impact. Most of you, you only know when they wear that white thing or when they have nice suits. But we need ladies of impact. And when they have impact, they defeat men very early in the morning.
But of course, to be fair, we must say there's some ladies, of course, who have impact. But you've named some of them, and they're well known. But maybe to wind up on that, because I want us to look at something else. Honorable Kirwa, do you see the 2/3 gender bill passing this time? You're an experienced politician. You've seen the debate as it's going. This is the 3rd time. I think actually the 4th. It's already been there 3 times. Do you see it going through?
Well, unless whipping is going to be upscaled. Otherwise, the way it is, I met a number of members of parliament for the last 3 days, and I don't think they are serious about it. Some, in fact, they will be lucky to get the threshold, which is 233. Some may just abstain and keep away from even getting to the chambers. And that will, of necessity, destroy the bill without even being proposed.
What does that say about us if that be the case, given that this is something that has already, it's constitutional. We even have the Supreme Court that pronounced its voice on it and gave a deadline of 60 days, but that was still not followed.
At times we need to mobilize people, and I think the best mobilization is for the Raia to own it, to own the process. I don't think Kenyans are sufficiently convinced that women have a problem. That's the problem.
Okay, whether do you think it's going to go through?
No, if you look at the body language of the president, the body language of Honorable Raila, you can see that they are not for it. How do I
but they have pronounced themselves and said that still,
they always pronounce themselves. You look at what people do compared to what they say. Why do I say so? Look at the finance bill. The one that every Kenyan was saying, don't. How did Honorable Raila act? How did Honorable Uhuru act? How did the Deputy President act? Yes. You saw the way they acted. How are they acting now? Is it the same? No, they are cheering the ladies. Hallelujah. Go, go, go. Give them. But at the back they say, kuna kitu kama hiyo. So it will not.
And of course, even at a party level, yes. If we look at the parties, starting with even ANC, if we yes. look at Jubilee, yes. if we look at ODM, yes. when you look at the top leadership, there is hardly representation by women.
They have not been met.
Yeah,
to tell them, if you don't go like this, then you are not one of us, and we will deal with you. They are not doing that. They're just saying, use your mind, use your mind.
All right, let's still stay in the August House, and one of the other questions that we'd like to raise and maybe discuss is the issues of members of parliament that want an increase in their pay. We also know that the president again has pronounced himself on this, saying that the focus needs to change. Let's listen into what the president had to say before we discuss that.
Jameni, mwananchi ni maskini, hana hata ya kukula, lakini akifungua gazeti ya anaona wajumbe wamejipatia pesa. You know, surely, and I say it, mimi, with respect, sitaki mimi vita na mtu. Sasa ndio muende muanze kujishawikia tutachapa huyu mtu ameenda kutu. Mimi sina vita na mtu. But I am just saying these are things that we must talk about.
All right, Weda, let me start with you. And again, we have the members of parliament saying that they need a salary increase. They need some allowances here and there for them to be able to work efficiently. But, of course, the president saying this needs to stop somewhere.
First, you remember I've always said history will judge MPs in this country very harshly because they are too greedy. It is also legal. The salary increase should be earned by the next team, not yourself. You don't increase your salary. But I see the president's body language again, and I'm sorry to say that he seems to be ambivalent about it. If he was against it, he would have called his brother also Raila, and they would have the same energy they had for the finance bill, the VAT one. You saw the energy, and everybody was whipped, and the ones who were dissenting were called privately and threatened and warned. And you saw MPs who had opposed turning up and supporting, and the ones who had signed things. That is the same energy you should use now. That is the same energy you say, we don't have the money, the poor person, the mwananchi is poor, please stop it. Mm-hmm. And even if you bring it to me, I will not sign it.
But away from the president, because, I mean, we'll just take it at face value that he says he would want MPs to consider that. Members of parliament, of course, we've seen this happen time and again, and when it comes to matters increasing their salary or their pay packs, they come together and it is passed very quickly. Honorable Kiro, you have sat in parliament. Do you think they have a legitimate reason why these salaries or, their packs should be increased?
Well, a number of reasons. So the first reason is that Sarah Srem, and I don't think I've ever forgiven her for that, decided to reduce the salary for members of parliament. What I know is that the first time I entered parliament, my salary was 18,000, and the salary of an MD in any parastatal was about 200,000, 300,000. That disparity made us so poor that we relied on the handouts from the president. That is how President Moi was able to control parliament. Now, Sarah Serem I think in court, with some individuals in government today, decided to slash the salary of members of parliament. The salary of a member of parliament is not, and I can say this again, is not salary that is going to be retained by the individual. I may never go back to parliament, but I think we are unfair to the sitting members of parliament today because we took away a lot of salary and we now tax them. And yet, taxation takes place on the ground.
But the question then would be, Honorable Kirwa, as civil servant, just like any other civil servant, you are paid a salary and it is taxed. Why should members of parliament be different?
Raya will tax them because every
But
funeral,
that is a choice. That is a choice that the member of parliament
every
makes.
funeral that you attend, you see the terms of service of a member of parliament is dependent upon constituents. Every Friday, every weekend, a member of parliament has to give money, either for a funeral, if somebody has a wedding, somebody has given birth to a nice child.
But I repeat, that is a choice that the member of parliament has made. When you go for the funeral, just like when I go for a funeral, I have the choice to either give what I can, or I can just be there, stand with them and say, thank you very much.
They announced that Honorable Kirwa has given us 10,000, and people will take record of that. I'm telling you, this is the truth. I was there for 20 years. I've not been there for 15 years. But I can tell you, Mike, that there is no single member of parliament today that is earning more than 100,000. All of it has been taken either to loans because they have to survive.
Okay.
So
Again,
in fact, I'm not even thinking of increasing the salary, but make their terms of service more tolerable and friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Weda?
Hey, when you say that somebody earning $1 million is given a four-wheel drive car, he does all these things.
A sitting allowance for
a
meetings.
Sitting allowance. When you are elected a member of parliament, you only have some old motorcycle and the shoes are not designer. Then immediately you are elected. You are transformed. Four-wheel drive car, tailor whatever suits and designer cars, and you travel to the US and to Hong Kong and to watch football and to do all transformation. People who have never left their villages are now in Washington, D.C., all over. Then you say, their terms of service is very poor. We need to improve. Then you know that the devil is fat. You know, these people, these things you are talking about that they are giving in Finland, it is because of greed. They want to retain those positions forever. So what do? They try to cheat wananchi. Take the serious party leaders. Take your party leader, take Honorable Raila, take all these people. Are they required to give like that? They don't. When they choose, but we still love them. We actually give them. So an MP should serve in such a way that you will be able to be re-elected without attending children's parties, without posturing in funeral and crying to other people you don't know. You serve well, but because they are performing poorly, we must get our pound of flesh. So you say, if I meet this one, he must give me fair because this is the first time I'm seeing him and the last time. I think they have no justification at all for the demands they're making now, especially when the country is poor, when we have debts to pay. The voter cannot pay school fees. You saw a child of 400 marks cannot pay. Then you come and say, we need free houses. These people must know how to manage money. They must know how to manage money. Once you're given, you don't take loans. They want five-star eating. You come from Kombewa food like myself. Now you say your tastes have changed so much that you can't eat
five-star hotel. Honorable Kirwa, it's going to be a tough thing to convince any Kenyan why that is necessary. Because I go back to the model where all of us are basically trying to act a living. The minute I get into a contract with Standard Group that they're going to pay me this much, it's up to me how I'm going to spend that money. If I decide to maybe keep my popularity by distributing money, that is a choice. However, for members of parliament, if they were to go by their job description, legislation, representation, and ensuring that the country's money is spent well, then we can say that they're doing a poor job of that.
You know, we can choose to be theoretical and serve one term. We can choose to be practical, serve 4 terms the way I served. And I can easily win an election again in my former constituency because they know that I'm practical. Because when I go to a funeral, I know there are problems that the family has, apart from mourning the departed one. But where I come from, or from where I sit, it is important that we are practical. We have to change society first. Because the moment you appear, even for me, as a former member of parliament, when I appear at home, the people are happy. They smile, not because they like me. They smile because they know the guy has arrived. And I arrive,
come with a package.
I come in my style. But a more serious one is the issue of housing. I would advise members of parliament that the house allowance, because the last time I knew about a house allowance, it was 100,000. And at that time, you could live anywhere in Nairobi with 100,000. Whatever the figure is today, I would rather that the houses are not given to them for free. They build their own houses, and at the end of the 5 years, if you have a house and you choose to go back to the village, that house can be rented out. It will become part of your source of income. Otherwise, if you are given a house at the end of 5 years, because some countries do it, like Ethiopia, there is what they call condominiums, where members of parliament live in, and at the end of 5 years, if you don't win again, you go home and that house is given to the next member of parliament. So I would not even advocate for free housing. Build your own house, whether it's in Kayole, whether it's in Karen, whether it's wherever it is, as long as you reach parliament, build your own house. At the end of the 5 years, if you don't win again, that house you can rent out.
All right, whether chances are that when it comes to their own needs, they will pass the bill. What's your advice to Kenyans? Because this is something that we have seen happen again and again and again, and it's likely to continue happening. Again, there's a question of Kenyans sitting here and saying that we want them not to pay themselves, yet this is just a selection from our own selves. I mean, the members of parliament we have are a reflection of who we are.
Correct. I will repeat that pain is the seed for change.
Of change.
As long as we continue electing them on the basis of party and tribe, they'll continue behaving this way. It is upon us when we elect to look for leaders who are a bit genuine, who are a bit concerned, people who want to push this country forward. Contrary to what Mheshimiwa says, sorry to say this, the MPs who are popular, people like the late Patin Shikuku, Jen Kariuki, Anyona, they were not paying people. People knew. You select your coat. They know Mr. Moneyberg has come. Yes. They know this is Mukombozi. I have never seen people asking Honorable Raila for money whenever he attends funeral. Over the years, even when he was a member of parliament. But they would ask him, there's a wall which has been erected here illegally. Please come and push it. And he will bring people and they push it down. Now, the other money bags would come, and their lifespan in politics is very short. I fall in the category of the money bag. You understand that? And I've seen the mistake of it. So even the MPs who are stealing from us to continue that lifestyle, it is wrong. Our people should stop electing people first on the basis of how much they bring. How much have you come with? Where did you get it from? On the basis of party, and then on the basis of tribe. The moment we stop that, we will get quality leaders who stand up to something, who are willing. And then let's also not elect people who are too broke, people who are starting from zero. I can now say that, however good, when you go to parliament and you taste those good cuisines from foreign countries, it changes your appetite and you become a problem. You become more greedy than those who are used
to it.
You do these things. We have seen the level of corruption. We have seen, if you take princes, take for instance President Uhuru, having been a prince, his propensity to steal is much lower than some of us who fear poverty. If I just think of poverty from Kombewa, I would take the treasury and keep for myself. So we also should be able to see leaders who have excelled at their own personal level. Then you say, with this having excelled, he understands. Let's push him. Let's not get people from down too much.
Okay, Honorable Kirwa, I don't know. I'm sure Kenyans would differ with that because there are some members of parliament who possibly have started very low but have kept their eyes on the ball. But, Honorable Kirwa, there are also members of parliament who are saying that, for instance, when it comes to their insurance, it needs to be extended even to their their second wives and third wives. Again, we're in a very diverse culture in Kenya.
I think we have to give the standard, and the standard is that the majority of Kenyans are Christians, and Christians of necessity have only one wife. Therefore, let the one wife be the standard of measuring who should be covered. The other lady, and I have no problems with our Muslim brothers, the other 2 or 3 other ladies, you can also look for resources. Because even in the Muslim faith, they say you can only marry a second or a third wife if you have the capacity to take care of them. That capacity now is informed by your own pocket, that yes, I have insurance with the first lady. Number 2, if I need a third and a fourth wife, now I have to look for more resources to make sure that she is also covered from my own insurance, by ensuring that you pay for that. And that's the way it is. Otherwise, we will be playing double.
Right.
Because the Constitution does require that if you are a Christian, 1 man, 1 wife. And if you exceed, please take care of the...
You take care of the extra. And maybe your closing comments as we wind up on this, and what maybe Kenyans should look out for, because right now they feel that Kenyans are unfair in 2 reasons. One, when we look at the gender bill, it's still a question that remains in the mind of many Kenyans. It may not pass. And number 2, when we look at parliamentarians passing laws that are selfish, so to speak, they seem to do that very actively and very quickly.
Two reasons I will give. First of all, the issue of gender, I think time is not yet up. We still need to think of a more innovative way of doing it. And even Duale and Ruto, because Ruto seems to have been so much at the forefront, they are just playing to the gallery. Even they themselves don't believe in the bill that are brought to the floor of the House. Number 2, the issue of members of parliament, we need to do more of civic education, the way Lawyer Weda is saying, so that Raia know. And I can say this without any fear of contradiction. No single member of parliament today, if they are living on the salary, especially first-timers, are earning more than 100,000. I told you the first time my salary was 18,000, and I hardly took home more than 1,000 shillings every month. I used to survive on mileage, which was 3,400. And that is the way it is. So we are pretending. The moment we put a lot of pressure on members of parliament, we are actually ensuring that they do what they are likely to do. And this bill about their salary will pass.
It will pass. Gentlemen, we'll have to wind it up right there. Thank you very much for joining us. Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer, and Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who's the Deputy Party Leader for ANC. That is the state of the nation. It's now 26 minutes to 8. We're going to take a short break, but do stay with us right here. We have more coming for you. Later on Black and White, we're going to be talking about alcohol abuse, addiction, and, of course, how to get out of it. We'll be talking to somebody who's gone through it, and he'll be giving us his experience. He's now 2 years clean, and will be giving us details of how, first of all, you get into the addiction, but more importantly, how you get out of it. So if you have anybody who possibly is in that bind and you'd like to get advice, we're going to be having it right here. It's now 26 minutes to 8. We take that break.